Okay, so we're up actually on the rooftop deck of our office building. We're lucky to have this really cool deck, and it's 70 degrees today in Denver, so we're also really lucky to live here, right?
I'm a native here.
I'm a
so
native too. I was just gonna say, two natives.
Couldn't imagine living anywhere else.
And there's less and less of us. Although I think some are coming back.
A lot of people are traveling here, though. Traffic's gotten pretty bad.
Ugh. You could quit moving here. There's other places like you could go to Idaho, Utah, pretty similar.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're here to talk about another one of Connor's placements. Her name's Tina.
Tina, yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and we can kind of talk about some of the things we had to overcome with Tina.
It's a good idea. Well, Tina is she's an ICU nurse out in New York. You know, she's extending. It's not a brand new contract or anything like that. She's been working there for a while now, and she's really liked it so far. The hospital's great. Everybody's treating her well. No complaints. So she extended, but we did have one hurdle trying to get this extension, and you can go into a little bit more detail, and then I'll kind of chime in for it.
Okay. So when you get an extension, as a lot of you guys know, it's kind of you're working as an agency, you're trying to get the extension offer from the vendor, and the nurse is trying to get her nurse manager to work with her HR department to get that offer to the vendor. So a lot of times you feel really out of control. As the recruiter, you're trying really hard to make something happen that the nurse is also trying on her end to make happen. So it can sometimes be really frustrating, and this one was definitely one of those cases.
In my opinion, this was a good example of how nurse and recruiter trust becomes a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been doing this for a couple of years, and when I first started learning and things like that, I noticed that when a nurse starts to panic, they want to see what other options are out there. My contract's not extending. What else is out there? Do I need to look at any other agencies? They start like do I have a job? And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing to me as a recruiter when I'm working with the nurses, that you are employed.
Yeah.
And so,
because you feel as a recruiter, you feel like you do own very seriously the fact that you have their livelihood in your hands, and so you bear a lot of that stress. At least I think the good recruiters do. I mean, there's certainly recruiters out there who are like,
well, there's a lot of responsibility, and we're not one of those agencies where we sit here and just pass you off from one recruiter to another. I'm my nurse's go-to for everything, so I feel totally in control of every part of it.
Well, and responsible at any point when something goes wrong. So
those are some tough conversations when you have to call a nurse and say, I feel like I'm letting you down, I'm so sorry, but it's part of the trust. And if you're honest about what's going on, you walk the nurse through the situation, it really helps understand and make things easier. And in this case, she actually reached out to her nurse manager to get things going faster, because sometimes the vendor will, take a couple days to get a response from the nurse manager. It's a lot easier if a nurse just goes directly to the nurse manager and says, hey, can I extend? Is there a possibility of extending right away?
Well, even in this case, she did do that, but the nurse manager had to take it to her HR department, and then, that had to be approved at the HR department and then sent to the vendor, and
the final signature.
And then the vendor was saying they were waiting on a confirmation from us, which we had already sent, so we had to resend something. And it's just, I always remind travelers, especially first-time travelers, that you're basically dealing with two large bureaucracies. Not your recruiting company, unless you're working with a giant recruiting company, but a vendor is really oftentimes, in my view, a pretty big bureaucracy, and you're dealing with a hospital, which we all know is a giant bureaucracy. So there's a lot of channels to go through and things like that. And I think our point here, the message we want to get out, is that it's oftentimes we feel just as out of control as sometimes the nurse feels, and sometimes when nurses start to panic, they want us to do more and don't always understand that, we're doing as much as we possibly can, because, we don't want anything awful to happen, and we want you to keep working, and we don't want you to lose income, and
But we're so thankful everything worked out well
Yeah.
for her. You know, it's just
She did.
like I said, it went back to trust. She had no doubt in her mind it was everything I was telling her was the truth. You know, I was keeping her informed what the vendor was telling us. Just transparency, two-way street is going to make your life easier as a recruiter
Yeah.
and a traveler. So
Yeah. Yep. And consistency with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Because, you know, a lot of nurses have been burned, so they have a tendency to kind of start to wonder, is my recruiter really telling me the truth? So we
Yeah.
want to make sure that they know that we at Meridian really are always telling the truth.
It's because we care about you.
We do. It's about you.
All right, take care.
Hashtag. Bye.